Okay, before start this, anyone got opportunity to study or read something about the migration? It can be application migration or database migration. Anyone went through?
No.
Okay, because this is something, critical process where if you need to migrate something, it might be database or application. Okay, so first we will see about the database migration. So before migration, so we need to follow the certain process. Then number of discussion with the multiple teams, client or something like that. Okay, because we directly we can't migrate anything, like it might be application or database. Now if you come to the migrations style, like where to where we need to migrate, so it can be your on-prem on-prem to any cloud. Okay, your on-prem to, for example, today we are looking at AWS, right? Then cloud to cloud, not AWS, cloud to cloud. Second, cloud to on premises. Okay, these could be situations there we need to perform the migration. So number of organization, when you see the JD or something, they might if they have a such kind of requirement, they can specifically mention like we need a candidate who has experience on the migration style. Okay, it can be application or database. If they have a such kind of project where they need to migrate infrastructure from these areas like on-prem to any cloud, on-prem to AWS or Azure specifically, cloud to cloud or cloud to on premises. Okay, so there could be different situations where you can see performance, security, cost. Cost also the major play role here. Okay, then other features, if some providers providing best features and that's not available in the current cloud, so then in that case they might be think about that to have this migration. Okay, now what exact we migrate when we do the migration? Okay, it can be your database or application. In the database side, what we need to migrate, let's say your database
सर एक
data.
रिक्वेस्ट है सर, आपके ये स्क्रीन में जो साइड में एक ऐड आ रहा है उसको क्लोज कर दीजिए, वो काफी
नहीं कर
डिस्टर्बिंग।
सकते ना, नहीं कर सकते ना, वो इधर ऑप्शन नहीं है।
ओके ओके।
एक मिनट में उसको ऐसा कर दूं अभी।
या थैंक यू।
ओके, अब वो पता नहीं यार, कुछ भी ऐड डालते रहते हैं।
या
ठीक है। डीबी डेटा, देन जो भी डेटाबेस के रिलेटेड स्कीमास होते हैं ना, so don't worry about this schemas tables वगैरह, because schema will handle take care of your, if they have features like migration tools, they it can be if it's supported, then they will take care. Otherwise your database team now, because when we need to perform these migrations, only we are not responsible like cloud engineer or DevOps engineer. Okay, just don't worry about that. So what teams are responsible for that? Obviously during the planning, so I will come to that, the planning strategy. Okay, just remind me if I forgot. So database data schema, then whatever the users are there, because that users we are using something in the application, right? Users or any other tables, whatever table records, which is data, your physical data.
Okay. So
Yeah,
before I forget, I want to ask how do uh, solution architect, cloud engineer analyze data with software developers?
yeah, I will come to that in the planning when we need to coordinate with the multiple teams.
Okay.
Okay, these are the things for the database. So let me see who is joining. Okay, Sudhir. Now coming to the application database, sorry, application. What things we require to migrate? It's simple as application data. If anything specifically apart from these, like any logs or something, then we can add it. But majorly we can focus on the application data when we need to migrate it. It can be like I was in earlier slide we discussed, right? It can be your on-prem to cloud, cloud to cloud, or cloud to on premises. Okay, so that we need to planning. So now when we do the planning for this migration, okay, we as an EA just we can directly jump and just do the directly migration. Okay, so we need to plan accordingly. So I have mentioned all the details in the GitHub repo where you can just follow this. This is the repo. Let me just add here. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Okay, here you can just go through completely. So I have mentioned all the details here, migration strategies, what kind of migration, why we need to migrate, which I just performed, right? We just explain cloud migration, where to where migration, then migration types, tools, which tools we can use for this migration, then migration planning. So here migration plannings, I added all the details here. So because in the earlier organization, I just use where we migrate on-premise database to AWS RDS. Okay, so that is the based on my experience. I just added all the details here, discovery and planning before migration, collect all the relevant information of the source infra. Because when we are planning for the migration, it can be your applications or your database. Okay, so first we should have a clear understanding on the source infrastructure. What are the folder size, I mean the data size, what kind of users are there configured in the applications, then any security standards they have maintained or something, or any things we need to upgrade the versions like that. All the details, database size, disk space size, all the details we need to collect it. Otherwise during the migration if we don't analyze properly, that migration will be failed. Okay, and we don't want to that things. Then plan submission to authorized person like your manager, engineering manager, client side, whoever is responsible. Okay, so that plan, complete end-to-end plan we need to submit, like how you are planning, and if something goes wrong, how you are, like your plan B, how you are roll back it. Okay, or how we can restore the system where no major impact will happen, right? All the details we need to submit. Then obviously we need to take the client approvals. If there is a on-premise in-house like product-based organization, then there might be no clients. Okay, but still we need to take approval from the respective folks, or your project manager or respective team lead, where the database team, QA team, and others, business where the business impact happens. Okay, so that you need to take the approvals. Then create one Jira ticket to track the complete status. Also you can maintain one sheet, for example Excel sheet, where you can just mention, like for example when we do the planning now, let's say infrastructure side. Okay, for example, who is my responsible, for example DevOps or your cloud engineer, right? Then testing, so we cannot do testing, right? So here QA team will responsible, for example. Then if any code changes, then your developer team, right? And if anything, something like for example monitoring part or something. So if some separate, if dedicated team is not available, then definitely sometimes you can say as a SRE or something. And apart from this, like project level, or business level that your PM or engineering manager will take care, right? As a hierarchy wise. And make sure whatever the status you are doing daily basis, you should provide daily basis update. So what you have covered till now and what is your next plan? So at least everyone will have on the same page. So no one should have any gap there. Okay, communication gap. Then before actual migration, you need to perform the POC, which is proof of concept. So actually, when you do the actual implementation like live migration, so don't do that. So first you have to create the POC kind of infrastructure where you can just create, for example, if you look at this database hub. So what things we required for the database migration, right? So let's say we have this on-prem EC2 instance database, and where you need to migrate AWS RDS. Okay, this is our target. This is target, and this one is the source. Now, so here we have a MySQL database. Then in between in AWS we have a this MySQL RDS, right? So now what things we required? So source we already have, right? But still from the source side, what we required to make the connection, we required user and credentials, password. Okay. So we have done all the planning, POC like that, and now we are going to actual planning for the migration, right? So from the source side, what we required user details, username, password, and host of the source database. Okay. So in between, just make a one note here. So this is we are doing from the on-premises to AWS cloud. Okay. So how the network settings will happen, right? So because on-premises infrastructure network will have is completely isolated, and this is completely isolated, right? So direct connection is not possible. So in that case, your network team will help out here. So here you can just mention the network team as well for the network related stuff, network changes. If it's a on-premises, okay. So whatever the VLAN or something tunneling he will create there, and he will give you the one public IP address. So network team will manage manageable firewall or something or switches where they configure the VLAN or tunnel something. Okay, and they will provide us one public IP address which we can use as a host here, host or IP address of the source database. Okay, so for the connection string, what we required IP address, username, password, right? And required permission from the network side where we can connect from the AWS to our on-premises network. Inbound policy, as simple as which port we need to open here, MySQL 3306, right? So here I can just mention network settings. That will taken care by your network team, don't worry. So where you need to open the MySQL 3306 port number. Okay. Now in between, as a mediator, what we required, I will let you know. We are using DMS service here. Anyone went through about this? DMS, database migration service, where if I search AWS DMS docs, if you can go to this little bit about, you will understand how this service will work. Okay, database migration service. So in this you will see completely like source database. Source endpoint means what? So which we discussed, right? Source connection details, your IP address, your username, credentials, and whatever the network settings are there, right? So this is something like that. Then in mediator replica instance, which is nothing but your DMS instance. Okay. So DMS service we use here. And in that DMS, we create one EC2 instance. I will show you practically how we can do that. And here we add source and target endpoints. What is the target endpoints? Target endpoint means your from where you are taking the data. This is called as a source endpoint. This is the mediator of your DMS, and where you are need to migrate the database, which is your target AWS RDS. Is that clear till now? What we are trying to achieve?
Yes.
Okay. So whatever the required settings we need to configure, I will show you practically as well here. Okay, but now just concept like source database, we are trying to migrate to the as a AWS RDS by using DMS, database migration service. Okay, where we need to configure this replica instance and your target endpoint, which is credential. So in between number of configurations are available, we need to configure that. So definitely I will show you. But if you can just, if you're interested, because this migration project is very important. If you get somewhere opportunity or in the during the interview preparation, interview session, definitely this might help you. So lots of documentation available here, limitations, troubleshootings, how you can configure this. So you can refer this as well. Now what next? So wherever, as I said, like all the detailed steps run, or you can say as a run book, you need to maintain, because that will help in the longer run what things you have done, changes, anything, settings like that. So that will help out. And keep rollback plan, which we already discussed. If something goes wrong or you are not able to migrate, or after migration there are some issues in the applications, like some data not properly sync or something, and issues can be anything, like sometimes data records mismatch or something, any network failure or something like that. So at least keep your rollback plan. Then after database, if you are planning to migrate the application as well, then you can just migrate that as well. And ensure no single data will lose during the migration, so that we need to either take the maintenance window in that situation. Like let's say you are migrating the database for 1 GB or 10 GB data, something like that. It's depend on the work model. If you are migrating the e-commerce kind of website database, so definitely database size will be higher, okay, as compared to normal application. So we in the last organization we migrate the e-commerce kind of database there, around 30-40 GB database size, okay, and the warehouse data from the IBM cloud to your AWS RDS, okay. Then wherever the possible, like any version, older version are there, then you can just fine tune like application or database. So that will be involve application team, your database team, developer, tester, like that, okay. Because all the things we need to only migrate, upgrading the version will not help you, help out you, okay. So after migration or the upgrade any versions, your QA team will ensure that verify and all the changes are working properly. So you need to make sure that. Then do proper testing and validate data, like your whatever the data you are migrated, it can be application data, your database data. So that should have performed the checks by the QA team and the developer team as well, to make sure that everything is properly sync, okay, and no there is a failure or any data mismatch. Then after that we can just place the monitoring option there, because we need to monitor the infrastructure as well, like your database performance, your replication lags, any network connectivity, database connections, like that. So there are number of metrics available for the RDS. So you can just monitor that. So post migration activity, what we think we required, ensure migrated applications and database are working fine. So this is obviously the first point of things we need to check. Ensure application or database performance is not slow. So that definitely we will monitor by this application tools or any just normal testing, and that we will definitely, it's part of the monitoring basically database performance and applications. And wherever possible, you can just apply the cost saving plan for the long term resources like EC2 or RDS. It's something like the reserve instance. If you project that will take care by the longer period like 1 year, 2 year or something or more than that. So in that case, you can use cost optimization strategy where let's say for example load environment, your day over test environment, you can just make it automatically shut down after the business hours, and during the next day early morning you can just start it. So it will save, you can save almost 50% cost to make it shut down automatically for the lower environment, okay, not the production one. For the production one, you can just implement a cost saving plan, okay, something like that, a reserve instance. So that will help out with the cost. You can save the cost 45 to 50% discount there if you do this. But only just make sure before purchasing that plan, so make sure that you will use that longer period, okay? Otherwise, once you purchase, you cannot cancel directly. So that you can just make sure. So here now just migration. One more thing is here in the database migration, not the application one, okay? Because application data once you migrated, that will be until and unless you do any deployment, then only the source data will change. But in the database cases, continuously user might upload your invoices, your any images or any profile updation like that. So if that storing in the database, so it can be continuously changed. So let's say this is our source. This is mediator, which is your DMS, and here our target. Okay, AWS RDS. So we have options here in the DMS, full load. What is the full load? Full load means one-time data migration completely. So let's say you have this 1 GB data here. So if you do full load, so it will migrate all the data, whatever the available here, completely here in the target. In second option is there. I will show you. What the exact word? Let me check. But it's something like as a generic like continuous replication, change data capture. Okay, replication. So what will happen? Let's say you have this migrate 1 GB data right here. So what after that, if any minor changes are there or continuously something data records adding, right? So those incremental changes, right? Incremental changes you can also sync real time from this by using this DMS app data, DMS instance to your target continuously. This is something called as a ongoing replication.
So I have a question. So in which cases do we use this full load and in which cases this replication one? Like what are the scenarios?
Sorry, I just received one call. Okay. So in that case, so there are multiple use cases.
Sir,
If you are doing,
I have a question. Like I asked about in which scenarios we use
yeah,
that full load.
I'm just trying to answer that.
Oh, okay,
So there
okay.
there can be two situation, right? One is your complete migration. Complete migration means what? You don't want to use source database anywhere anymore, like your on premises, right? You want complete migration. So in that case, you can use full load. Like you want to complete migrate and just decommission it, and you want to use your RDS, right? Ongoing replication, where we can use it can be a multiple situation. Like let's say you want to continuously fetch your source database, where basically you want to maintain both the sources, like your source database and your target database. So your source database using some other teams, for example, and you want their database real time, right, in the target machine where you have a RDS. Okay. and you are using RDS for different purpose, like for the different application. It can be your reporting point of view. You are using their different reporting. You want to show something in the reporting in the dashboard, right? So instead of using the source, you can just use this to target. Or sometimes second situation like will like be you want to use source and target at a time for different purpose or applications. Or there might be a situation like for time being you want to use you want to make full load, okay, but during the maintain migration, if something comes as incremental changes, you want to sync that as well in the target machine when you are doing the migration. So that also situation will be there. So you will not lose any data there records. If you make completely downtime maintenance window, then you don't require this incremental changes. You can just make it as simple as full load, because when you completely put downtime and maintenance window, so no one user can upload their any profiles, invoices, any payment details or something, whatever on the source database. So no changes will happen here. So in that case, you can just simply make it full load. Is that clear?
Yes, so it means in the complete migration, like
Yeah, in the
once
complete
for an
migration, once, yeah, you can make it a full load.
okay, like once and for all, like that's been moved to the cloud or
Yeah, but in that case, you need to make sure no other person can make any database changes here. That I just said maintenance window downtime, right? If something incremental changes continuously happening, then in that case, after full load, you can just make it one more task like ongoing replication. And that source incremental changes you need to replicate again to the target machine.
so it means like according to my understanding, then most of the companies might be going for the this replication one because there is obviously changes happening in the database.
If
So
database size is very less, like for example 1 GB or till 10 GB, for example, normally we do migration in the midnight, not the working business hours.
mm,
It can be midnight or weekend midnight basically. So where we define this weekend midnight. So we perform this full load and with the complete downtime. If you don't want to take complete downtime, then you can just make it sure full load and then replication changes, which is called as a CDC, chain data capture, in the DMS language. So if you
okay.
go to this documentation, you will see that CDC option there. That in the setting wise, for the full load, on the source machine, what changes we require, right? For the full load on the source machine, we don't need to enable any migration. No migration, no migration, no replication required. I'm talking about the database side now, not that CDC. Okay, you heard word right? MySQL, master slave replication, right? So that is the concept.
Mm.
You don't need to enable that replications here on the full load, but for the ongoing replication, you need to enable that settings on the source MySQL. How you can enable? I will not show you, but just if I find data here, or let me use this chat GPT quickly. And that's database team is need to involve there. Okay. We are only not the responsible person here. So don't take complete responsibility here. So involve all the respective team there with the coordination. One setting is there in the my.cnf, that setting we need to enable for the on-premises MySQL database. That's called as a enable binary logging. I will show you that this one, which is something like is a replication setting, MySQL bin and server ID, which we need to pass. And that this is just a step for the creation of the users. Just you can just forget about it. But these settings we need to enable for the ongoing replication on the source database. For full load, it's not required, but for the ongoing replication, that settings you need to enable it. Otherwise, your ongoing replication will not capture any change data capture. Okay. So in the source database, definitely there might be incremental changes continuously happen. But if you don't enable the settings, bin log or something, server ID, which is required for the change data capture for the replications, then you will not get any data changes there on the target machine. Okay, just remember these settings. And remaining theoretical part I just mentioned here, so you can just go through this link. So for today, what we can do is for the as a practical point of view. So here let me source. Okay, source endpoint. Problem statement what is migrate. So in our cases, I don't have any network settings available here, firewall manage. Then any on-premises virtual machine or something where I can do complete real-time situation kind of migration like on-premises to AWS. But in our cases, just to make it more flexible, I am just using here AWS EC2. Okay, migrate AWS EC2 MySQL database to AWS RDS by using database migration service. So instead of as simple as instead of using the on-premises server here, we are using EC2 instance. Okay, but all the processes are same apart from the that tunneling or like that will handle by the network team. But in this case, we can completely manage here. Okay, database migration service, which is called as a serv DMS. DMS source endpoint. What tech stack we required, right? So we required one AWS EC2 Ubuntu base, then your DMS instance and AWS RDS. Okay, MySQL. Now source configuration. Okay, source configuration. Create one EC2 with Ubuntu, right? Latest stable version. Then install MySQL and create one MySQL user. Okay, open security group port, right? 3306 for DMS instance, because that connection should enable, right? So that things we need to open here, so that I will show you practically how we can use that. Now this is the source one. Now we can consider as a mediator here, DMS configuration. Okay, create source and target endpoints. create DMS instance, enable write configuration for DMS task. Okay, I can mention here 3 step create DMS task for database data migration. Okay, and the fourth one, enable write configuration for DMS task. Fourth. Now this is your target configuration. Okay, what things we required? Create AWS RDS, right? Create AWS RDS with MySQL. Create user. Create MySQL user and enable or open MySQL port 3306 for DMS instance. Okay, right? So source, create EC2 instance, install MySQL, create one MySQL user, open MySQL port number for the DMS instance, target configuration, create AWS RDS with the MySQL, create MySQL user with required here target configuration, read, write permission. Okay, and here with read permission. Okay, because from the source we are only pulling the data, okay, from the source database, but in the target we are writing the data. That's why we required MySQL read permission only for the source configuration, which is you can consider as EC2, and the target machine where we are creating the AWS RDS, where we require read and write operations. Okay, because we are putting the data into the database. In the DMS configuration, which is the mediator, create one source and target endpoint. That connection string we need to configure. Then create DMS instance, right? Then in the DMS instance, we need to define the task. Okay, and in the task we need to enable that option, like which we discuss, full load or on ongoing changes, that we can do that settings. And how we can test it? Now test the replication or migration, right? Create dummy data on source MySQL database, right? Start DMS task for full load. Once job succeed of the DMS, okay, then verify data migration on AWS RDS, okay, database. So this is how we can do this complete practical. Anyone any questions till now? So as a overview, I hope you understand what things we required for the database migration.
Yes.
Okay. So for now, what we can do is we can configure the source for now. Okay. I can go to our source, which is EC2, for example. Make sure you are in the right region, Mumbai, or whatever your nearest location. I can launch one instance quickly here. I can mention it like DB migration EC2 source. Okay. Then select your operating system Ubuntu, which is automatically pick the latest version, and instance type T2 macro, which is fine. Key pair login, I will not going to create new one here. I have already number of key pair available, so I can use that. This one. Network setting, I can choose here my VPC. In your case, if you have add a custom VPC, you can choose that. Otherwise, go with the default one. No issues. Okay. Public one, yes. Security group, I will not create new one. I will use existing here, which is this one. And then this space is fine, right? So simply I can launch it. So migration is one of the complex project task I can say, because there is a no single chance where we need to miss any data or records. So that's why you just whenever if you get opportunity, you need to plan very carefully and POC there. So involve all the respective teams there. Okay, and just make sure you maintain all the documentation and the status and the rollback plan as well. And there should not be any communication gap between any teams. And also for the standard process where you need to create the Jira ticket, author the comments wherever possible like that. First thing is very important, like you need to understand the source infrastructure details, what settings they have done there, what users they are using, and that user, for example, database user, in which or how many applications they have configured that database users, right? If you don't aware or skip any applications configuration, so in that case that application will not work. Okay, no one can access the database data there from the front end application. So make sure you collected all the information there by help of your DB team. So our source instance is ready. So we can quickly connect it from the putty. Just open getting the IP address here, adding the just I'm just replacing the IP address here, which is 99.17.27. Okay. Key I already saved that for that another session. That's why I just save it time for me. So initially you can just do like normal we do APT update or something. So I'm mentioning all the steps here so you will not miss APT update. Okay. Update the OS and packages. Okay. Now install MySQL repos and package. ठीक है. Just give me 1 minute. So we can simply just search the steps. Install MySQL on Ubuntu server. So we can install it to apt install MySQL hyphen server. Okay. You can see the version here. It's 8.0. Okay. MySQL server 8.0. We are going to install. Just press Y here and just apt install MySQL hyphen server. Okay. Now we required user, right? As per the documentation which we created. Create MySQL user with remote login with read permission. Create MySQL user with read permission. Here you can just give your username like DMS For example, DMS admin, right? And your password, like for example, now admin@123. Okay. And let me copy this. How you can log into this MySQL prompt, MySQL-u. But before that, one more things are required. MySQL underscore secure installation. We need to perform this. These are just basic settings which we need to perform. MySQL-u root-p. Okay, by default there is no password setup. So how you can log into this database? MySQL-u root-p. Okay, password and press enter. Right? It will ask enter password. Just press enter. Okay. No need to add the password here. Now you can just perform this query to create the user. Before that, if you want to check how many users are there, the query is select star from MySQL dot users. Okay, it might be user. Okay, it's created showing in the different format, but anyways, you can just simply uh, show database to check the databases. Show database. As of now, it's information schema, MySQL. These are the default database. If you want to create new one, let's say for the DMS migration, create database DB migration, right? And run this command. See, so we have this DB migration database. So what I can do is here, I will add one more step. Create one database, okay, for migration. And now create the user. Your username will be DMS admin and password is admin123, right? So you can see the query. Now what next? We have created the user now. Now we need to give the password. So what are the things? Sorry, not password, the permission. So we can simply just copy this query and paste here. This is basically grant select permission. Select means what? Read permission on star dot star means what? Any database, any tables. Okay. If you want to give specific database permission, then this is the query you can use. Mention the database name dot star means any tables. Okay. So any database, any tables, you are giving the permission, and here you need to replace the username, right? So what is the meaning of this percentage here? That means this user can able to log in from any system in any EC2 instance, okay, EC2 instance or RDS. So that is the reason we are giving. Otherwise, if you want to allow from specific IP address, instead of percent here, you can just add the specific IP address. For example, you want to give access for the DMS instance only, then you can just add the DMS instance IP address here. But for now, to avoid any confusion, I am just giving the percent mark here. So this user can able to access from anywhere. Okay, just to make it simple. Right. So now just to replicate these changes, we need to just run this command, run flush privileges. Okay, to apply the changes in the database. Okay. So you can see as of now we have created the EC2 instance, we have installed the database, we have created the database here separately, and also we have created the username, right? So we are good with our source configuration. So what things we require now? The target one, the target instance, and then the DMS. Okay. Anyone any doubts till now on the source configuration?
No.
Okay. Yeah. So now quickly what we can do is we can just quickly set up this target configuration, right? So this is I can just close it now. Coming to this RDS now, right? Our target is RDS. So let's create the RDS quickly. As of now, no database is there. So let me quickly set up it. So for now, I'm just selecting the engine type Aurora MySQL here. And then your engine version, it will take automatically. Then here I can just give the database name like target RDS DB, for example. Credential string, which is fine. Username is admin. Then password will store in the secret manager, which we already covered last time, right? Then I will keep with the minimum configuration here, T3 medium. Failover means high availability. I don't require for now because I'm just creating it for the simple migration. VPC here, you can just select proper one, which we configured ND VPC, right? We configured it for the EC2 instance. Subnet group, I can go with the default one. If you want to give the public access, yes, otherwise no. But for now, because we want to verify the data, right, from the after the migration, so that is the reason. For now, I can just make it accessible, yes. So from the local machine, I can log in and just verify the data, right, which is migrated or not. VPC security group, we can just select existing one here. This one, which we are normally use. Then additional configuration. I'm just disabling this monitoring for now. And one more additional changes is there, which is your I don't want any maintenance now, and disable this termination protection. So for the real time, you can just enable this, but for now, I'm just skipping that part. Okay. And one more thing, initial database name. So we can just create initial database name, which our source database will sync to this database, right? So whatever the source database data is there, that will migrate in this database. So I can just make it the name like target DB. Okay. And just create it. Okay. It will take little bit time. So meantime, what I can do is database name target DB. Okay. And source database name is what we given, database migration, right? Yes. DB migration. So as of now, we have configured with the source configuration, we have configured with the target. Okay, we have a source MySQL username password, we have a target MySQL username password. So next, we need to set up the DMS configuration, which will help us to migrate your source database to target. Okay. So for now, what we can do is it will take a little bit time here to yes, create it. So what I'm planning is so remaining part, which is the DMS configuration. So I will show you tomorrow morning, and then we will do this testing. We can place some dummy data on the source database. Then we start our DMS jobs where it will start the migration. Then we can just verify the source and target data records. I mean the table records, the data. So that should be completely match. Okay, whatever the data available in the source, that should completely match with the target. Okay, that verification we will do. And then apart from this, the last topic for this no this these two things. So I'm trying to cover tomorrow, so we can just finish this batch. And remaining stuff we will get in the form of notes and the videos as well. The harness Kubernetes with the Argo CD, harness CI/CD, and other part. So these two topics are pending for now. So that I'm planning to cover tomorrow as well, because this DMS migration will not take too much time. The just setup and this testing. So after once that is done, so we will cover these two topics. I'm just setting up the GitHub action workflow where last time we have seen the declarative pipeline, right, in the Jenkins CI/CD pipeline. So now most of the company are using GitHub actions. So that is the reason I want to show you this project. And then we can just, I will show you after that this monitoring part. These two are very important so that we can just cover it. So let's see if I'm able to achieve this tomorrow, then fine. If not, then next Saturday I will just try to cover this remaining any simple single topics or something. Mostly I will try to finish it, but let's see.